Hey guys, Melanie here with Anam Cara. Today we're asking the question, how did C.S. Lewis, a full-blown atheist, come to faith? I don't mean how did he become a Christian. For him it happened in two stages. He went from atheism to faith that there was a God. And then from faith that there was a God to Christianity. I'm talking about the first step. And he wrote about this in the book called Surprised by Joy. I've met a lot of people who think that since he married Joy Davidman, Surprised by Joy is referring to her in the title. That's not at all what's going on. He says right in the beginning that there were three very particular moments in time, and I'll read you his words so that you can get a feeling for each one of the three. They're not massive, but they were extraordinary. So let's start with the first one. Lewis records when he moved to a new house. His family moved to a new house called Little Lee. These are his words. I am the product of long corridors of empty, sunlit rooms, upstairs indoor silences, attics explored in solitude, distant noises of gurgling cisterns and pipes, and the noise of wind under the tiles. Also of endless books. That's the end of that quote. But you can almost, well, you can see how the Pevensey children in the Narnia Chronicles got that exploratory spirit for this new house when they were sent to the country to get out of the bombings of London. Going back to his first experience, it was summertime and he was standing by a currant bush, and then he suddenly remembered he had a toy garden in a biscuit tin that he had created. Lewis described the currant bush moment as a memory of a memory. He recalled feeling like he was remembering from centuries ago, not earlier in his own life, and likened his experience to Milton's enormous bliss when he encountered Eden. In Lewis's words, before I knew what I desired, the desire itself was gone. The whole glimpse was withdrawn. The world turned commonplace again, or only stirred by a longing for the longing that had just ceased. It had taken only a moment of time, and in a certain sense, everything else that had ever happened to me was insignificant by comparison. Close quote. In Lewis's second experience, it was facilitated by one of his favorite books, which was The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin. He loved the Beatrix Potter books. They captured his imagination. And he had an idea that he called the idea of autumn. This is what he wrote as an adult in a letter to his friend Arthur Greeves. Today, I worked in the morning and afternoon and walking into town by Cuckoo Lake and Mesopotamia after tea. Mesopotamia in Oxford. The real autumn tang in the air had begun. There was one of those almost white skies with a touch of frosty red over the town, and the beginnings of lovely coloring in the college garden. I love the big kitchen garden there. I saw both a squirrel and a fat old rat in Addison's Walk, and had glimpses of it. I think almost more every year in the autumn, I get the sense, just as the mere nature and voluptuous life of the world is dying, of something else coming awake. You know the feeling, of course, as well as I do. I wonder, is it significant in stories nymphs slip out of the tree just as the ordinary life in the wood is settling down for the night? Does the death of the natural always mean the birth of the spiritual? Does one thing never sleep except to let something else awake? Milton found that his genius was never in full tide except in autumn and winter. Close the quote. So he and Arthur Greeves had had many conversations about it, the idea of autumn, where the leaves are rustling and there's just something extraordinary in the moment. You could tell Lewis was going to be a literary guy because his third experience came from a book titled The Saga of King Olaf. When he read the lines of Tegner's Droppa, I don't know what that is, Tegner's Droppa, he says he was suddenly lifted into huge regions of northern sky. So these three encounters the currant bush, the idea of autumn, and the regions of northern sky that he was just suddenly present to are all the occasions that he called joy. So these three occasions were called, by George Sayer, mystical experiences of the presence of God. And he never forgot them. They were short, they were fleeting, they were almost nothing, and yet they changed his life. He referred to them as pangs and special longings. He said, the central story of my life is about nothing else. So these three moments in time so captured his imagination that as he contemplated them later in life, this is after he's gone to World War I, come back as a veteran, and he's completed all his firsts at Oxford. He comes back and he realizes that he was touched by a who. I don't mean somebody out of Whoville. I mean touched by a person, touched by a someone. And those three encounters of joy are how or why C.S. Lewis, the hardcore atheist, moved from atheism to faith in God. C.S. Lewis wrote about those experiences because he knew they were short. They lasted just a few seconds, not even a full minute, some of them. The currant bush one was maybe less than a minute. And yet he thought that probably a lot of us are having moments like that, especially in childhood. But we've talked ourselves out of them. I know I have. It's one of the reasons I was so fascinated by his writing. How about you? Today I'm going to do something a little different. The original music with this channel has been recorded in a studio, but today I'm going to play it for you. I wrote a song based on C.S. Lewis's encounter with joy called Far Country, which is all about the longing for these little windows of eternity that sometimes open up to us. I hope you enjoy it.